My medical career ended because I studied the wrong way in medical school. I was getting A's, but I was doing it in the most self-destructive way possible. I'm Dr. Lucas, a DO, former medical school professor, and now full-time COMLEX and USMLE tutor. But back in med school, not even close. I mean, just nobody taught me how to study in med school. Nobody taught me how to learn medicine without burning myself to the ground. And I really paid the price for it. Med school was just so much harder than it had to be. And I was so burnt out that I ultimately decided not to practice medicine. My parents really loved that decision. I built Pre-meducated to help students learn how to study and do it without resenting medicine so they can have a long, healthy career. Unfortunately for me, I figured it out the hard way and a little too late. Here's my story. It all started when I was born. Oh, maybe not that long ago. Before med school, I was the king of procrastination, and I really mean it. Nobody did it better than me. I was actually very good at procrastinating. My strategy was study nothing for weeks, pull an all-nighter before the exam, and say my prayers. The only thing I did right was active recall. I would cover up slides with my hand, try to recite them from memory, and then I would just move on when I feel like I got it down. But at 3 a.m., if I tried to go back to those slides a little later on, like 10 minutes later, I didn't remember a thing. But here's the wild part. If I gave myself a couple hours of sleep, just about 1 or 2 hours of sleep, I suddenly remembered almost everything. Honestly, it was bewildering. I was very surprised that worked. And with that highly scientific approach of self-quizzing and microsleep, I got A's. Again, blew my mind. I didn't know the words for consolidation or spaced repetition yet, but that's exactly what I was doing, and it was working. But it was the most painful college gremlin way possible. And I knew that that wouldn't be sustainable for med school. So when I was accepted to med school, I started looking into new ways to study. That's when I discovered this magical new drug the med students were hooked on. Anki, that's it. It was a similar concept to what was already working for me, except I could cram a little bit every day instead of all at the last minute. So Anki became my gateway drug to success. And I actually went into med school happy, confident, I was ready. And I feel like a lot of people do this, but like everybody else, I was completely ignorant to the emotional damage that was waiting for me right around the corner. So then first year classes started, and I wish I could say I had a photographic memory. That would have made med school so easy, but I didn't, and I had to try very hard. Unfortunately, I was an ortho gunner, so I did what every type A med student does, and I took Anki and I turned it into a 16-hour-a-day personality trait. I studied from the moment I woke up until the phone fell out of my hand in bed and smacked me in the face. I did flashcards while eating. I did flashcards while walking, flashcards in the shower. Seriously, I put my phone in a plastic bag and taped it to the wall. Wow. That is definitely the nerdiest thing I think I've ever said. Before med school, I used to work out 1 to 2 hours every day, 6 days a week. But in med school, oh no. I skipped the gym my entire first semester. Freshman 15, no, actually, I was buff, sort of, before med school. I lost 20 pounds, freshman -20. After my first semester of med school because I hallucinated that I didn't have time to cook or work out. So like a toddler, I survived on boxed mac and cheese, dino nuggets, and my mother's praise. Looking back, I'm kind of surprised I didn't just stop breathing to save time. But it paid off well. I mean, I ended my first semester with a 3.97 GPA and my second semester with a perfect 4.0. Nice. I was in the top 10% of my class, but it felt like I was drowning trying to do that. Studying became my entire personality. It was the only thing I did every single day. I did nothing else. Story time. I went to medical school in Florida and lived about 30 minutes away from the beach. It was school tradition to just go hang out at the beach after a big 4-hour exam. So how many times do you think I went to the beach my first 2 years of med school? Never. Even after an exam, I would immediately go home and start cheese grating Anki into my brain for the next test. Yet again, somehow I managed to develop even more unsustainable study habits than what I had previously. It was the complete opposite of the end of the spectrum too. At first it wasn't enough studying, now it was too much. Go team. Just can't figure it out. Summer, finally, I made it past first year, crushed my mental health as well, but whatever, that's an aside. Nobody cares about mental health. Most people at this point were going home and spending their last summer break with friends, family, and just taking a break. But I sure didn't. I was like Forrest Gump. I just kept running and running, straight to burnout, apparently. I studied straight through the summer. Same intensity, same pace. I memorized about 10,000 flashcards that summer. 3 months just vanished. And before I knew it, I was right back in class. It's like summer didn't even happen. At least that's what it felt like. Round 2, let's give it up for round 2. Ding, 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 ding. And to make it even worse, at this point, we were so waist deep into the whole virus situation. We were locked inside all year. No classmates, no campus. And I think I speak for all of us when I say this was the most socially isolating time of our lives. And it really affected my experience in class too, more than I thought it would. I'm naturally kind of a loner, but this was impressive. In our small group case-based discussions the previous year, we didn't really have that many lectures. It was small groups of students and we'd work through practice questions together. I actually enjoyed showing up in person and getting to just talk to my classmates about medicine and just have friends. Then we had to do it remotely. And that's like trying to discuss politics during a road rage incident. It just doesn't work. Nobody wanted to participate. Nobody showed up early and had small talk. Man, that's how you know you're down bad for human connection when you miss small talk. Anyway, it was all so sudden, but it's like that momentum I had built up had just evaporated overnight. My motivation tanked. It's hard to explain it if you haven't experienced burnout yet, but I wasn't just depressed. I was empty. The sleep loss and urge to do anything other than study hit me like a truck. I was suddenly so bored with medicine. I started binging YouTube and for some reason got really into real estate investing. I mean, maybe that was just partly because I was 25 and wanted to get out and start working like all my high school friends had. And at that point, I was just ready to pick up a shift at the Mac Shack. That's how desperate I was. I knew it was bad when my Anki time, my time per flashcard, started rising. Usually it was about 10 seconds per card. Then I saw it started creeping up to 20, 30, 60 seconds. I was toast. I even thought about dropping out, which sounds kind of funny coming from a gunner, but I was really going through it and I didn't have anybody to talk to. It felt like I was trapped. I kept telling myself, you just need to push harder. You're just being lazy. This is med school, bro. What did you expect? But every day felt heavier. Every Anki session felt longer, and it actually was longer. Every week I fell further behind. Even my GPA took a steaming hot dump. I nearly failed a couple classes that year. And worse still, board season was right around the corner. And that's when I finally had the med school equivalent of a come to Jesus moment. If I didn't get my act together, ortho was off the table. That was the whole reason I went to med school. So naturally, the possibility of losing out on being even more burned out in a surgical subspecialty really lit a fire under my butt. I knew that I had to do something. I had to get motivated again, but I still had no idea how to fix the burnout. I was part of the final class to take a scored COMLEX in USMLE Step 1. I was the Terminator when it came to Step 1 in COMLEX. My entire goal for the past 2 years had been to do as well as humanly possible on those exams. My whole future as an aspiring ortho bro really depended on it. My motivation, however, was not there. Some days were better than others, but it was so inconsistent and nowhere near what I needed to do well. Again, I didn't have anyone I could talk to about this. I didn't have doctors in my family, and I didn't know people actually went to therapy for things like this. So in my exhaustion, I desperately tried to fix myself. I started studying my daily routine and why certain days worked and others didn't, why some concepts stuck and others didn't. And that's when I realized it wasn't the content or the process. Med school teaches you what to learn, but it doesn't teach you how to learn. Not how to train decision-making instead of memorizing trivia, and certainly not how to take care of yourself to have a long, healthy career in medicine. So I rebuilt my approach from scratch. I noticed my best study days, counterintuitively, included the most time off. Days I went to the gym, even for just 30 minutes, were so much more productive than the days that I didn't. I tried scheduling breaks into my study day so I didn't feel bad about taking them. And they didn't have to be long. I mean, 10 to 15 minutes of scheduled break time was a lot more restorative than an unintentional 30-minute doom scrolling session on TikTok. When I was studying, I made sure to keep up with what worked for me in the past. Content review to learn the information, practice questions to apply that information to unique clinical cases, and spaced repetition to reinforce it all over time without devolving back into my former cram goblin self. And amazingly, it worked. Now, I definitely didn't feel as motivated as I did during my first year of med school, and unfortunately, I've never felt that way about medicine again. But I did start to feel like a normal person again, which was enough to start seeing some improvement. And it all happened with a little less study time each day, and that blew my mind. Obviously, the grind had not been helping me. It was just slowing me down and jeopardizing my entire career in medicine. After that roller coaster of emotions and self-discovery, I finally took COMLEX and USMLE. A few months later, I got an email from the NBOME saying my score had just been released. I logged into the portal to check and saw a strange 3-digit number, 755. I had no idea what that was. So I opened up the rest of the report, and there it was again, 755, with a massive blue bar representing my score compared to the average. I was shook even. I didn't even know that the scores went that high. Safe to say, the ortho dream was still alive. I had just surpassed my expectations on the thing I had been training for the past 2 years, and yet something still felt off. Despite having made it through preclinical and having a healthier study strategy now, I still felt really burnt out from those past 2 years. The damage I did to myself hadn't completely resolved, and spoiler alert, it never did. And I'm honestly not sure if that was damage per se, or maybe just disillusionment. I was still more interested in anything other than medicine. And a little later, when I started my ortho auditions, it really hit me. It's like, wow, I actually just don't like this stuff that much. It was blasphemy coming out of my mouth. But out of all the other med students holding up the walls in the operating room, it seemed like I was the only one who didn't want to be there. I liked more than just ortho and wanted more out of my career. I wanted to pursue creativity and be free to chase my other interests. But after 8 ortho auditions and being told I was ranked to match, I made a really hard decision and actually withdrew my applications. I had to scramble into something, so I figured, hey, maybe I'll do emergency medicine. I had never rotated in emergency medicine at that point. I sent out some applications, hoping that the lifestyle would be better than ortho, and miraculously, that's what I matched into. Again, at the very last minute, I still was so burnt out and just had no motivation or interest to actually go into that field, and I pulled out of that too. I ended up graduating from med school without pursuing residency. And let me tell you, it is almost impossible to find a job as a physician without a residency. The degree is worthless. To pay the bills, I became probably the most highly educated DoorDasher and Instacart shopper in the country. Obviously, nobody grows up thinking, yeah, I want to be an Instacart shopper for when I'm an adult. So I kept applying to jobs and remembered that one of the few things I had always enjoyed was teaching. I applied to a professor of basic science position at my alma mater and was surprised when they actually accepted me. I was getting really sick of Costco hot dogs, so the timing was impeccable. This was huge for my sanity and my bank account. It was also a massive stepping stone that shaped my current career path. I moved back to Florida and started teaching preclinical med students with problem-based learning. This was the same curriculum that I had. It's just small group, case-based discussion, except now I had the reins and I knew I could make it even better for my students. This was actually a ton of fun for me. I've always loved teaching, so getting to help students prepare for their boards was just the perfect job for me. I got to help first and second year students learn the basic sciences for the first time. And of course, I made sure to tell them what was high yield. None of that low yield stuff in my house. And when I was about a semester in, I was still loving it and I had great reviews from my med students. My first group of students actually took a group photo with me, printed it out, and gave it to me to keep. Oh, and I actually have it here. Give me a sec. Yes, I'm wearing sweatpants in my own house. Don't judge me. Here they are. This is my first group of students, and there's my happy face in the middle. I'll just keep it here for the rest of the video. So, moral of the story, it was a lot of fun for me. The students seemed to enjoy it too. And then the gunner brain kicked in and said, okay, how do I do more of this? That's when I knew that I needed to look for a tutoring gig, a side hustle. Look, you can take the ortho out of the gunner, but you can't take the gunner out of me. I applied to job after job and heard absolutely nothing for months. But finally, I heard back from one company. Thanks for applying. We're not interested. Love that. I guess just 99th percentile doesn't cut it these days. Thanks, Obama. But that's okay. Eventually, I did get an interview from a different company, and I crushed it. Before I knew it, I was in the big leagues, real board prep, shelf exams, COMLEX, USMLE. I was even tutoring residents for level 3. I helped people who failed COMSAs, COMLEX, and even MD students preparing for USMLE and CBSEs. I fixed their study plans, simplified their resources, taught them question strategy, helped them finally understand the medicine, and they started passing. Crazy concept, right? It was amazing. I genuinely wasn't expecting to have that kind of an impact on the DO community, but it made sense. At the time, there were just no DO test prep resources. There were no professional DO tutors. Everything available had just been created by MDs for USMLE and just repackaged for DO med students, as if the exams were identical. And I've taken both. I can assure you, they ain't the same. Totally different. Anyway, something funny that just kept coming up was that students were asking me what was my specialty. And it wasn't ortho or emergency medicine or family medicine. It was something way less cool. My specialty was board prep. It's lame, I know, but that's what it is. And that was the nidus for me creating Pre-meducated, a DO founded test prep company built for future DOs. So here's what I've discovered over the years. Most med students don't fail because they aren't working hard enough. They fail because they don't have a system that works. You don't need 10 more resources, and you definitely don't need 16-hour study days like I was doing. You don't need to lose 20 pounds and half your personality. You just need a good plan. You need to find a way to finally learn the medicine, not just memorize it. Of course, memorizing is a huge component of these exams, but if you understand the concepts, then you don't have to memorize them. They just make sense. And if you can do all that without compromising your mental and physical health, you'll have the great career in medicine that I never could. Pretty quickly, I logged thousands of tutoring hours and helped hundreds of students pass COMLEX. But if that wasn't enough, they just kept coming back. I started getting referrals out the wazoo. I don't even know what a wazoo is. I don't think they taught us that in anatomy. People I'd never met were emailing me like, hey, you helped my roommate's girlfriend's sister's cousin's OMM lab partner. Can you help me too? They were all stuck and just wanted to pass COMLEX so they could move on with their lives. How dare they? So I took everything I learned the hard way and everything I learned working with so many DO students, and eventually it came out to be this system that just works for real med students. Study plans that don't require holding yourself hostage for 16 hours a day. The same question strategies that I used to finish COMLEX 3 hours early, content review that actually survives in your hippocampus for more than 5 minutes, and a way to choose the right answer when you swear it's down to 2 equally incorrect options. And of course, one-on-one accountability, because sometimes adults need a little handholding, and sometimes it's a lot of handholding. But that's okay. That's what I'm here for. And that's when things really started to change. Now I've got a team of physicians working together to help our students pass. At this point, we've helped hundreds of DO students. We're basically running a remote medical school at this point. Welcome to Dr. Lucas Academy. It's like Khan Academy, but worse. We've had first-time passers, serial retakers who finally broke the cycle, even students who were just one exam away from being expelled, and now they're residents. And honestly, it makes me really happy, and I'm so proud of what we were able to do. Word even got out to the school admin, and admin started referring their students directly to us. I've even given COMLEX prep talks at a few schools with more on the calendar. When I started med school, I thought the only right way to study was through constant punishment. Now I know better, and now I teach students to be better than me. And while I didn't end up going the traditional residency route, I've built a career doing something I genuinely love, teaching med students how to study without destroying themselves. Pre-meducated isn't just some other shiny tutoring service. It's the thing that I desperately wish that I had when I was a med student. It's the thing I built because nothing existed for DO students who were burned out, anxious, or just convinced they weren't good enough. So if you're here, you're not broken, and you're definitely not doomed. Life goes on no matter what happens. This is just a really hard situation to be in, and nobody showed you how to do it in a way that doesn't make you want to drop out. So if you want real strategy and support and a community that won't let you disappear for a week, join our Skool community. You'll get my study plan video and question strategy series for free. It's the same system we use with our one-on-one students who go from failing COMSAs to passing COMLEX. And I run free live group calls every month to make sure no med student gets left behind again. But if you're really serious and want direct one-on-one support, book a strategy call with one of our tutoring consultants. We'll plot out a roadmap to help you start moving in the right direction, and if tutoring seems like it would be a good fit for you, we can talk about your options. You officially have no excuses. Study less, do better. I believe in you.